brings me to New Jersey Democratic Senator Bob Menendez, top Democrat on the Foreign Relations Committee. Senator, I feel very fortunate that we have you here, given what we just heard. And I want to start, and I'm not sure whether you heard it, but what Secretary Pompeo said when asked about this whole question of an imminent threat is, those threats included attacks on U.S. embassies, period, full stop, against American facilities, including American embassies, military bases, including American facilities throughout the region. Our Peter Alexander then asked him very specifically, then why did people who came out of that briefing, members of Congress who came out of the briefing, said that they had not been given information that was a justification for the killing of Soleimani? He said they had. And the way Peter Alexander put it is, clearly someone here is lying. What can you add to this discussion, Senator?
Well, I just heard Secretary Pompeo's remarks that you just related, and I can tell you he wasn't at the same briefing I was. I did not hear what he just said at that press conference. I went in and asked 3 specific questions, which I got to ask. Number 1, what was the specific intelligence that led you to believe there was an imminent threat? 2, what was the nature of the threat, i.e. the targets? And number 3, what was the specific intelligence that would lead you to believe that eliminating Soleimani alone would eliminate the threat? And I didn't get the answer to any of those 3 questions. So I don't know what the secretary is talking about. I stayed for the entire briefing, including after I asked my questions. I stayed there even as he left because they abruptly ended the briefing. I didn't hear what he just said.
So when he says that we would have been culpably negligent if we hadn't made these recommendations to the president, there was absolutely nothing that you heard from him that said that there was any kind of imminent threat, the kind that he just mentioned.
Well, certainly all I can say is they keep suggesting that there was an imminent threat. But when you press them on the question of imminency, there is no clear definition of what they consider imminent. I think this is a case in which one ultimately molds the intelligence that exists to fit what you want to do. And this is why we press so hard, and this is why so many members on both sides of the aisle walked out disaffected by the briefing, because for those of us who were around, as I was in the House of Representatives during the Iraq War debate, and did our due diligence and found out that there were no evidence of weapons of mass destruction, no clear and present danger, no imminent threat to the United States by Saddam Hussein. He was a bad guy, just like Soleimani was a bad guy, but it wasn't a question of those 3 issues: imminency, weapons of mass destruction. The bottom line is we cannot have another weapon of mass destruction moment. And so that's why we press so hard. That's why members were, unhappy with the briefing they got.
We also heard Mike Pompeo double down on something that the president has said, and let me get your reaction to that. He said, we wouldn't be in this situation without Obama. And he was referring to his support for the Iran nuclear deal, which, as you know, the president has said essentially funded this kind of terrorism. What's your response to that and the doubling down on what the president said?
Well, look, I did not support the Iran nuclear deal. I think people generally know that. I thought there was a better deal to be had. But there's a difference between having tried to strike a better deal that time and walking away unilaterally with no strategy in place, with a series of maximum pressure that doesn't have a strategy with an end goal. Maximum pressure is a tactic to ultimately devise a goal, the goal being to bring Iran back to the negotiating table and getting an international coalition to get a better deal on the Iran nuclear program, as well as dealing with some of their missile development. So the problem is that everything we've seen is a series of tactics that have moved an escalation closer to an unauthorized war without the strategy of an ultimate goal. And so I think I heard that there are more sanctions today. I've been the architect of many of the sanctions against Iran. But at the end of the day, what you need is a surge at this moment of diplomacy, as difficult as it will be under these circumstances, maybe using third parties. But you need a surge of diplomacy to get to where you ultimately want. Constrain Iran's nuclear program so they can never have a nuclear weapon and deal with their ballistic missiles.
Senator Bob Menendez, we thank you so much for your time, sir. Much appreciated.
Thank you.